Hey everyone, Sheldon here, and well, it's been a long time since you guys have seen this project, and I figured I wanted to make a video on it because it's been so long, but this isn't actually the same dual extended blade that you guys saw me work on in the past. These are some of the old components that I was going to use for the dual extended hidden blade, but basically one day I just looked at them and thought, you know, it all just seems a little bit too bulky, because eventually I want to make a functioning dual extended hidden blade out of metal, and the idea was to make a blueprint and make a successful one out of paper and then just use that blueprint to make one out of metal. And if I used the old original blueprint to make one out of metal, it would just be a lot thicker than it needs to be, you know, because metal is stronger, so it wouldn't have to be as thick and bulky as these components here. So basically, I just took all of those original dimensions and just made everything a lot more slim for this design. So I have some of the components finished, and obviously I still have a lot to do to this before it's finished, but you can see some of the internal components here. This is the blade section, the first tier and the second tier. So you can see this one actually moves independently of the first tier, and then it locks in place by this little lock right there. And if you move that lock out of the way, the second tier can go back in. So it goes out, locks in place, and you move that out of the way and it goes back in. So that's basically how that works. If you look closely, you can see this little spring in there, and basically I just reshaped a pen spring to fit in there, so it basically allows it to spring forward like that. And this piece was actually pretty complicated to make. It's actually a mixture of wood and paper, and I had reasons for making part of it out of wood, which I explain in the tutorials, but you guys will see that later on. As for the base of this hidden blade, you can see I have the locks working, and I used the same spring method I used for this and also the old hidden blade. And I can demonstrate that the locks work by putting this in here. So you can see if I push the blade back, it pushes past this lock and locks in place just like that, so it's not able to go out. And when I move this lock out of the way and push the blade forward, it keeps going until it goes past this lock like that, and then the rest of the momentum allows the second tier to go forward like that. And then this groove in here, which is kind of hard to see, but basically the groove is wider toward the top and then it slopes in right there, and then it gets more narrow toward the bottom. That groove actually pushes this lock on the blade out of the way, which allows the second tier to go inside the first tier when the whole thing retracts. So that piece on the bottom of the blade is actually a little bit taller than the surface of the blade itself, and it just fits in that groove, just like that. That part is actually really hard to show on camera, so I apologize if it doesn't really make sense, but basically, when this lock moves out of the way, this one's going to go back, and then that little groove, since it gets smaller, it pushes that lock on the bottom of the blade that way, but when it's like this, it's actually that way. And you can see that lock hasn't come in contact with the narrow part of this groove yet, so if I try to push the second tier, it won't go in. I will only be able to push the second tier inside the first tier once it goes past this sloped area right there into the narrow spot. So you'll be able to see the transition here to where the second tier is actually able to move, which is right there. See how it just went inside the first tier, and then they both are able to clear the lock right there. So yeah, it's pretty complicated and simple at the same time, but I promise I'll explain everything in more detail later on once I make more components for it. You can also see I have some other components that I'm currently working on, and the slider here has basic function right now. You can see it moves the locks out of the way when I push it forward and backward. Here's more of an up close shot of the slider moving the locks out of the way. So it's just a rounded surface, just pushes it out of the way. Same thing for the front here, just like that. And these pieces here are going to form one of the sliding components. Basically this piece will be glued right there like that, and I actually changed this area from what you guys are probably familiar with. For the original dual action hidden blade, I just used a hook like that, but for this one I used a little cross pin with a small band of paper toward the top. Here's an up close shot. So it's just a little pin with a smaller diameter of paper toward the top. And I got the inspiration for this from the single shot pistol I made. So yeah, it's a work in progress for sure. It's taken about a month and a half to get to this point, and I've been trying to work on it for a couple hours a day, but it's taken considerably less time than the original paper dual action hidden blade you guys saw. And I'm also filming tutorial videos for this project at the same time, so that's going to make it take a little bit longer, but hopefully it doesn't take too long. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how everything is turning out, so hopefully by the next video I'll have the dual action part working. So thanks for watching this video, you guys. I appreciate it, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section below or in a personal message, and be sure to subscribe if you'd like to see all the latest updates, and I'll see you guys in the next video.